Hello class, I am going to preview the final exam. This will be part 2 of the exam. The first part we have already gone over in class at this point. So this is why it was important for week 7, or not week 7, the past week, to make sure that you have your environments up and running, because once you have your environment up and running, your final will be based off of this. Now we have, this is it's called the Heather Sweeney information. It should have your name, your id.pointpark.edu. So what we're going to do is we're going to add we have something down here called Jeff Siemens Final Project. This is what we are going to create, and I'm going to show you how to create it. So like right now we have this information in here, my NBA players. I'm going to walk you through how to develop it. Now remember, this will not be your final exam. This is not the solution. I'm giving you an example of something that you will see on the final exam. Okay, so that way I can walk you through it, you know how to do it, and so forth. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that you have FileZilla installed. So the first thing and foremost is to open up FileZilla. So once again, how do you do it? You go to File, Site Manager, you choose your site that you have, which is mine right here. I'm already connected to it, so I'm not going to connect to it, but that's how you connect to it. So you'll pull up an environment like this. So you should have your name, and then you should have www, and you should have your HSD folder. Okay, so that's the first thing. Second thing is you want to make sure that whatever PHP or HTML file you already have on your desktop, you can use any editor. I like to use Atom to do my editing. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create 2 tables. So what will happen here is, let me pull this over here. So this is Atom. So let me create a new window real quick. Just give you an example. So in this window, so we're going to do here, the task will be to create 2 tables. And these tables will have to be linked together. So we'll have 2 tables linked together. And then we'll add values to both tables. And then, so let's just do that first. Okay, so let's take that out of the way. Oops. All right, so we need to build that environment. So first and foremost is we need to write some queries. So let me go over here. And so we're going to use our existing database, which should be HSD for you. And what we need to do is, the first and foremost is we need to create a new table. So now my example is I'm going to use tables. Now I already have the table players and teams, I already have it put together, but I'm going to walk you through on how to do this process. So the first step is, let me create well, first of all is use the name of the database, which is HSD. And then we need to create, I'll say team table creation. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a table, call it create team table, and then I'll call it teams. All right, and let's do this right here. So you'll be writing this out, you won't be actually putting a design together. So we need a team ID. This will be an integer. And this will not be null, so it can't be null. We will have a team name, so I'll put team varchar, and I'll make it 50 characters, also not null. I will have a primary key, and this primary key will be team ID. Simple as that. And that right there will be our first query. Our second query will be need to create player creation. Okay, so we need to create a player. So what we do is create table, and this will be players. And once again, I'm doing this. So I'm opening and closing it, put my exit there. All right, so now we need information. So we need player ID. So we need a primary key. So I'll call it player ID. This will be an integer, and it will not be null. We will also have a last name. I'll make it a varchar 50. And I'll make it not null. I need to have a first name, varchar 50. It also will not be null. Now, we need to have a team ID because we need to have a foreign key relationship between teams and players. So in order for me to do that, I need to have I need to represent one of the IDs. So I want to have this team ID over here. So I'm going to put team ID in here, team ID, and that's going to be integer and not null. Now I need to make a primary key for this table. So primary key in this case will be player ID. And now we need to make the foreign key relationship. So we'll do foreign key, and then that will be team ID. And we'll say what table it references, which is the teams table, and what's the name of the column that it represents. The attribute is team ID. Perfect. All right, perfect. So this is the first phase. I'm not going to run this because it's not going to work because I've already created the table. So this is the first phase of it. You'll want to create this table first, and the reason being is because team ID is the foreign key that's over here, so you can't create this first. And then you'll want to run this one second, okay? What it'll do is it'll create these two tables. First table being teams, and as you see down here in my columns, I have team ID and team. That's all we need is those two values. And then when we go over to players, you see my attributes. I have player ID, last name, first name, and you see my foreign key relationship, which is what I made this right here. So we have those values here. So that's the first step, is creating those tables and making sure they're in your database. Okay, so that's step number one. Step number two is adding values. So we need to add values to your tables, and you want to make sure they're added in the right row. So for example, when we're adding the data, I have to make sure I add data to this first and then this second. Reason being is we have a foreign key relationship. It's depending off that ID, those values over there, else it won't work. Okay, let's create a table for instant add-in values. So what we want to do is we'll do first thing that we'll do is teams. Okay, so in this case right here, insert into teams, and I'll show you an easy way of doing this instead of having to write this out completely. So we'll do teams, we'll do values, and then within values I'll add a value such as 1, and I'll do Lakers and that. So we put our team ID and the name of our team. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy and paste it several times versus having to 10. All right, so what I'll do is I'll come down here and just change these values around. And the reason I'm doing it this way is so I don't have to type this out a million times, which is not fun. All right, so now we need some teams. I'll have Lakers, Cavaliers, Celtics, Raptors, let's see here, Warriors. And the reason I'm doing this is it shows an example of what we're doing on the final. So you'll have like a way to Grizzlies. I can't spell. You have a way to practice what we're doing, but yours will be yours will be different content. So it won't be about sports player teams. It'll be something of this era, something relevant to what you're doing, and it may have 3 tables instead of 2 tables. So just remember that. 76ers. I'm doing a sports theme because that's what I like. And Nuggets and Rockets. All right, perfect. So now that right there will add values to the team's value for that. So now what I need to do is I need to do something for players. So we need to add players, and you have to do it after you've added that. So we'll do insert into, and the name of my thing was called players, and we'll do values, and we'll do the same thing. So value number 1, and then a last name I'll put James, then a first name I'll put LeBron, put King, and then we'll put the next thing will be for this right here for players will be the team ID, the foreign key relationship. So I'll link it to this guy since he's playing for Lakers, and I'll do that. So now what I'll do here is I'll do this 9 more times, copy and paste. All right, perfect. And now I'm just going to go down here. I'm sure I'm going to miss one or two. So I'll come down here and do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I missed one. 8, 9. And I'll just add one more. I'll make it 10. And I'll have to do the same thing on the way back up as well. Put 10 there. All right, so I'll do 1 because this will be the team ID that it represents. Now, it's not going to be as perfect because you might have so many different ones, but this is, in this case, from what I showed you in the example, is fine. They will not all be LeBron James. So next person will be Kevin Love. Next person will be for the Celtics. We'll use Kyrie Irving. All these Cavs players. At one point. Let's see who else we got here. We have Kawhi Leonard, who might be playing for Lakers next year. Let's see. I doubt it though. All right, so we have Kawhi Leonard. We have Steph Curry. All right, what else? We have Javon Carter, one of my favorites from WVU. Let's see here. Now we got Mr. Russell Westbrook. We got Jimmy Butler, buddies with Antonio Brown. Good friends. Nuggets, we use Isaiah Thomas. Played for Lakers and Celtics and Cavs. All those teams. Harden, who once played for the Thunder. All right, perfect. So once again, I'm not going to run these because I've already ran them and they'll blow up since I already have data in here. So you run the teams and then you'd run the players. And then what you would have is you'd have this. So if I select players, I have these values here. If I select teams, I would just select on here and I have teams. So that would be your next steps. So now we've added data to our table. Now I would say probably what we want to do is we want to prepare what query that we're going to have. So in this case, you'll have a problem. It'll say, hey, in this case, in this example, I'd say, I want you to create a table with the person's first and last name and the team that they represent. So you would have to join two tables, okay? So in this case, you'd have to write a query that joins two tables that provides that value, okay? Create a new thing for queries. This will be our query for our PHP website. All right, so we need to come up with the query. So what I'll do is I'll write it how I'm gonna. Well, I'll write it and then we'll put it SQL mode, and we'll put it in the PHP mode. PHP mode will be straight across, and we'll just fix it up. So first query number 1 will be like this. So we'll select our tables. So let's just do select from, and then we'll put what we're selecting from. So the first table that we're going to select from is, what is it going to be? It's going to be players, right? So players, and then I'll give it a common name that I reference. Now you could call it players if you want, but I'm going to call it A in this example. And then I'm going to do something called a join, which is an inner join, and I'm going to join on teams, and I'm going to reference it as B. Now we have to figure out how we're going to reference join these two tables. We're going to say on A dot. So what's the unique ID that they both have in common? Is our foreign key. So it'll be A dot team ID equals B dot team ID. Okay. Now we have to select the values that we want. So we want A dot first name. And then we want A dot last name, so they're popping up. And then we want team, or it would be B dot team. Okay, so that would be B dot team, right there. So if I ran this right now, and we have to put use HSD, it should give us our values. Yeah, so there it is. It gives first name, last name, team. Now when I reference this in PHP, I need to give it a reference name as well. So I'm gonna call it as, and I'll do, so it's just like this. I'll put first name, because if not, it'll come out as A dot last name. I don't want that to happen. Oops, comma, and as team. Boom. So now if I run it, it'll do the same thing. So there we go. We have first name, last name, whatever. All right. So now if I needed to put it in format, this would be number 2, format for the PHP code. I think what I would do here in this case is I do select a, you could probably copy, you could probably, instead of writing it, you could do a couple of things there. Sheesh. I'm trying to separate it here, hold on. All right, I couldn't get it to work. All right, so I'll just write it out. I don't care. I'll do select a dot first name as first name. I will do a dot last name as last name. Right. I would do b dot team as team from players A, and then I would put join teams B, and then I put on A dot team ID equals B dot, oh my god, dot team ID, like that. And then I'll obviously, well, you don't need that right there. You do. So let's see here. What's it griping about? Select is not invalid. We have invalid. I mean, we have the right thing at the end here. So let's do use HSD. Maybe it doesn't like that. All right, what do we have an error in our syntax here? We have an error in SQL, check the manual, of course. Okay, whatever. I know it's right. All right, so select, maybe I spelled it wrong. S-E-L-E. Oh, I know what it is, because I don't have a termination up here, so it's not going to know what to do there. So let's see if that works. Oh, come on. I have spelled joint. That's not what we want. That's funny. All right, so now it should run fine. Okay, so it runs fine. This is a query that we'll use when we create our PHP. All right, so first two steps is, we created a table, 2 tables. We created insert scripts to insert our values in, and then we created a query to make sure all our stuff's going to work. So next thing you want to do is go out to your site. Now, like I said, I already have this here, but I'm going to show you how to create it. So you want to have something like this. So I go into my index page, index.html, which is under my HSE. And as you see here, the last thing that you see is Jeff Siemens' final project is 7.56. So what you could do is you could just copy this right here and paste it in yours. Let's say that we wanted to make it Jeff, you could call it your name. So I'll say Jeff Siemens final exam code right here. And then you'll put something here that, like, for example, I have the name of it here. I have Jeff Siemens final project, I call it, which is not what it is. Jeff Siemens final project. I'm at the call final exam. No big deal. And then the other thing is, as you notice here, we have some text here. This is my final exam page. So you could do the same thing here. You could come here and add right here. You could say, this is my final exam code or something. And then you want to put where it's pointing at. So we don't have anything yet. Now I call mine Jeff Siemens final exam. I'm going to create a new one to show you what I mean. So what I'll do is I'll right click on here, create a new file. This file will be called, I'll call final code exam.php. And I'm just calling it this to show you an example. So what I could do here is I could copy one of my current ones I already have in place. For example, if I go out to read customer, where's my page at? If I go out to read customer, it pulls all this information up. So I'm going to use that because I know it works It'll copy my ODBC information over, so I'm good there. Okay, so I'm going to use that as my copy. So I'm going to edit, maybe select all. Maybe it's not going to select all. Let's do it again. Edit, select all, right click, copy. Now I'm going to go into my new page I'm creating right here, PHP, and we're going to make some changes to it. All right, so first of all, we need a new page. We don't want to call it read customer PHP. We want to call it your name, final exam page. That's fine. You want to do that. Then you want to make sure you have your source name, your username that we set up, and whatever your password is. And then you want to have your query that we use. So the query that we used previously, which was somewhere in here, so you want to use that and copy. You don't need the semicolon on this one. So then I'm gonna come over here and copy it. I'm gonna go back to here. I'm going to highlight this. I'm just gonna erase this right here. I'm just gonna paste it in, edit paste, or you could do Control V, whatever. And look at that, I have my query in there. I don't have to write it in here. I don't have to do anything. It saves me time. So now that part is done. Now, as you notice here real quick, if we go to, we went to read customer table, we have the Heather Swaney Designs customer table. So I don't know if that's in here or not. Because we want to change that. Yeah, right here. So in the heading right here, you want to call it your name, final exam page. Perfect. All right. So now in this example right here, we have all these columns. But in our query, when we run it, we only have 3 columns. So we want to have first name, last name, and team. So how do you do that? Well, first of all, you could erase these guys right here. You want to do that and only keep 3 of them. So you want to have first name, you could do first name, you could do last name, and then you could do team name, so team. And then you want to, when you fetch the array, it grabs these. So it goes in a loop and grabs the values. So you only need 3 values, okay? So you can erase the 4, okay? And so and here's the important thing. You want to put exactly how you have it in your query. So you have it first name like that. That's how you want to put it because it's going to grab it. If you put it like this, guess what? It will not work because it's looking for the exact match. So you want to put exactly what it is, first name, okay? You want to have it last name, okay? And then you want to have the team, okay? So that's exactly how you want to have it, just like that. So now that information will pull back. You could leave this the same because it goes back to your home page, and that right there is it. You save it. I'll save this. Boom. Okay, that part is done. You go back to your index page, and now you give it this where it says new customer form HTML. You want to put it whatever you call that. So I called mine final code exam.php. Boom. That will link to that page. When you go out to that page, it'll click on it. So like for example, I have this one set up here, this one right here, and this is what we're working on. I call it my NBA players, final whatever. I have this information here. It's not pretty, but it works. It displays the information because it's pulling it directly from the database, and that is how you do it. So you do those steps, and then the last step of this to make it work, which I'll show you how to do it, but I'm not going to copy my stuff over because I don't have this linked up. You would just then find your file wherever you have your location at. You would then drag it over here, and that's it. Then you go to your page and refresh, and this is it. This is how you do it. And then it displays your page, and your page works. That's it. That is your final coding aspect of it that you have to do. So you're using all the elements that you did this previous week, but you're doing it a little bit different. You're creating your own PHP page. You're editing the HTML page. You are writing code. You're creating the table. You're creating multiple tables. You're adding values to the table. You're creating the query that you're going to use. The whole 9 yards. That's why it's important that you have your environment up and running. If you don't, then you'll be deducted points on your final exam, and so that nobody wants that. So if you have any questions, you know how to, I'll show you this in class, and we can work through it. Thanks for watching, and this video is, I think, 25 minutes. Thanks. Bye.